Welcome to Skyton Academy's cryptocurrency pillar, where we equip you with essential skills for the digital economy. Explore the fundamentals in Crypto 101, delve into sectors like finance and healthcare, and master security measures. Safeguard your investments with our Crypto Scams module and learn to spot scams. Discover the art of secure storage with cold storage techniques. Elevate your trading strategies and more. At Skyton Academy, thrive in the crypto revolution. Unlock your potential. Enroll today for just $50 a month. What up, what up, what up? What's going on, ladies and gents? We back at it again for another episode. This is Dot Connect Wednesdays, episode 48. Today is a special one. We're joined by a special guest by the name of Eddie F. Today's topic is going to be the future of music, navigating industry changes. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, before we even dive into anything, appreciate you for being here. Appreciate all y'all for being here. I want you to tell me and introduce yourself to our audience and share a bit about your background in the music industry.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Been following you guys for a while. I'm actually a student in the academy, so I love what you guys are doing as far as teaching blockchain, crypto, DeFi. My name is Eddie F, also known as DJ Eddie F. I've been in the business for a while now, 30 plus years. Started with Uptown Records as a partner of Heavy D and the Boys, and started produced most of the artists on Uptown, including our group, Jeff Red, Horace Brown, Mary J. Blige, worked with Teddy Riley and Guy, worked with Jodeci, and then I went on to be vice president of A&R LaFace Records with L.A. Reid and Babyface, and worked with all of the superstars that came out of Atlanta, the early Atlanta, before Atlanta became what it is now. And I was also executive vice president of A&R at Motown Records, and worked with some newcomers there, 702, Terrell Hicks, 98 Degrees, but also superstars as well there. Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, which was actually that was actually a highlight of my career, because I grew up as a kid, grew up on hip hop, and then grew up on Motown in the early days. So to be able to work there and be a vice president there was kind of like a full circle moment in my career. I also worked with a lot of artists. I formed the first original production camp of the hip hop generation, the Untouchables, and I have myself, Pete Rock, Dave Hall, Novell Hodge, Kenny Smooth, Kenny Green, Mary Brown, Donnell Jones, Spunk Bigger, and I don't think I left anybody out. If I did, apologize. But we worked on a lot of artists. Worked on everybody from Mariah Carey, TLC, Madonna, Pete Rock, and CL Smooth. I said Donnell Jones, but he was also a producer and an artist. The In Living Color soundtrack, the Wayans Brothers, and just worked pretty much with every major label and a lot of different artists. Also, Destiny's Child, one of shout out Mary Brown. I don't think I mentioned Mary Brown. She was one of Untouchables writers. She wrote the Destiny's Child first single, No No No, and a lot of artists that we work with, first singles from a lot, and helped launch a lot of careers.
Man, that catalog in itself is ultra impressive. So tell us, what inspires you to pursue a career in music production?
I started as a DJ, and I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. Mount Vernon, for those who don't know, is a town in Westchester, and Mount Vernon is right next to the Bronx. It's bordered actually on two sides of Mount Vernon by the Bronx, and hip hop started in the Bronx. So where I grew up, my parents' house was literally less than 20 minutes away from where Cool Herc started hip hop.
Wow.
So I grew up being a fan of hip hop. And hip hop started in 74? So let's see, I was 6 years old then, 7 years old. So I basically grew up as hip hop was coming up, and there was a park up the street from my house called Brush Park, and groups would come there. And it wasn't until later on, years later, when I became friends with Red Alert, I found out that Red Alert, Bambaataa, Jazzy J used to actually come to that park they used to throw parties in that park back when hip hop was starting. So I grew up hearing the music, hearing the block parties, going up there as a young kid, 10 years old, looking at all the speakers. So I was inspired at an early age to get into music. Plus my parents had all the, they had the record player with all the 45s and the soul records and the Motown and, all the singles. And around that time, I think the Jackson 5 was out. And, so as a kid, I was just inspired to be a part of music. But then I became a DJ. And then through being a DJ and playing all the records, that inspired me to actually want to take it further. And then I became a beat maker, producer, got to deal with Uptown Records. And actually, I was a freshman in college. My last day of college was the day before we shot our video for Mr. Big Stuff. So I dropped out my first semester because we had a hit record. We did a video and the record started taking off, and then we went on the road. So I literally went from freshman in college straight into the music business.
Let me just chime in. What did your parents think at that exact moment there? What did they say to you?
So my parents were educators. My dad's guidance counselor, master's degree in education history, or mother lifelong educator. And I was a tech guy. I was like a humanities student. I was a computer guy. So I think by then, and this literally happened, I asked my mom, I didn't tell her. I asked my mom, I said, hey, I had a potential to go to Syracuse for a scholarship. And I asked her, I said, I wanted to stay around for a year, go locally, go to City College, because we were trying to make a record and see if we could get a record deal. And amazing thing happened. My mom said, she said, okay, if that's what you want to do, I trust you. I feel like you'll do the right thing. So she had confidence, and she let me, just stay and work on trying to make a record. And then we ended up getting the deal, and it took off. So I'm saying all that to say, I had done well in school. I was, accelerated class. I got Regents diploma and all that stuff. So I think at that point they had confidence in me to let me, take a calculated risk.
Yeah. Wow. Did it pay off?
Oh yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, listen, if she would have said no, do you go with your heart or do you go with the family on that call?
If she said no, I probably would have went with the family. But I would have just went to Syracuse and been DJing there, and then still hopefully trying to make a record. I don't know if it would have turned out exactly the same, but I would have still been. I still was in music no matter what.
Right. Okay.
So, Steve, I want you to take us all into the current state of the music industry.
Well, before that, let's what's probably your most notable project or artist throughout your career? Like, give me the top. Like, just take us to that moment.
It's hard, man. I have a lot of highlights. I can't. It would be unfair, I think, to the artist and to me to try and pick one person. But okay. I'll tell you some of the highlights. First and foremost, Heavy D and the boys. Just having a partnership with Heavy D and the White Myers. We had a lot of success. And my partner, G Wiz, Glenn Parrish, Trouble T. Roy, all being friends. We had 5 albums. We went platinum We won awards, saw the world. That's definitely a highlight.
Mm.
Another highlight, Donnell Jones. Again, sold millions of records. I was with him from, I met him at a conference. He sang for me live with his group, and he had a special voice. And I said, man, I'm going to call you. And funny story, we talk about this all the time. I went and did some other thing, came back, I saw him singing for somebody else. I said, man, you don't have to sing for anybody else. I'm going to call you. He tells me now, he said they didn't believe I was going to call him. He thought I was just kind of trying to brush him off. But long story, full circle, great career. And he's not done yet. He has some amazing stuff coming, but we, sold platinum records. He won American Music Award. And I think he's become somewhat of a standard and a staple in R&B music, where people look back to his projects, and they're like, they use them as reference points, which I'm really proud of that. Pete Rock and CL Smooth, my first group that I ever executive produced and put out. Love those guys, really proud of those guys. Because not only we all came up together from Mount Vernon, but again, classic song. They reminisce over you, which also was a tribute to our fallen group member Trouble T-Roy. It was a dedication to him, so that makes it double special. That it's a classic, and it's something that will live on forever, in memory of him.
Oh, wow.
And then just all of the guys that I worked with, all of them, they all have like special projects, and it always gets to this point where I look for that when I work with people, like their breakout project. So for example, with Dave Hall, when he worked with Mariah Carey under, through my company, Kenny Smooth, or Change Your Faces, and Case. I already said, like, Mary Brown, who wrote with Destiny's Child, and Wyclef, 911. She was a co-writer on that. And so each person that I work with, and they work with other special people. Intro, Kenny Green, when he first started writing for like Mary J. Blige's first album. So that's why it's hard for me to just pick a project, because I feel like I have a lot of people that I've worked with, and we've worked on special projects. I really love I'm really proud of the In Living Color theme. When we did it, we were just trying to make a song that didn't sound like a jingle. We wanted it to sound like a record. We wanted it to kind of make people dance. We had no idea that the show was going to be the iconic show that it turned out to be. So now looking back, I'm really, proud and feel blessed to have been able to be involved with just great projects like that. And all the creative guys that I work with, and girls.
Yeah, you a powerhouse. You was definitely instrumental. You know what I mean? To a lot of music that was in a lot of houses. You know what I mean? So that's super impressive. Salute to you on that one.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the 90s was the backdrop to my life. So, you're taking me back with a lot of the tracks. Donnell, definitely my favorite R&B artist of all time. Still play his records to this day.
Wow.
Timeless.
Thank you.
Listen,
Great.
I definitely appreciate you for your contribution to what I know music was then. Now we're in a different state. So that gets us right into the current state of music.
Yep.
Right. So how would you describe the current state of the music industry today? I'm just hearing a bunch of massive layoffs. I've dabbled in the industry, being in New York for so many years, just on the marketing side. So I do have a little bit of background, but definitely not as connected as you are. So what's the current state? What are we seeing right now?
I think we have an industry that's in flux, and because you have the digital landscape. First, you had just digital music, which we already saw what happened with that. When you first had MP3s and Napster, and there was a minute where music business was kind of trying to figure out its footing, just trying to get its footing with technology. and you have disruption that happens over and over again. I was fortunate enough to come in the music business. We came on the leading edge of sampling. So we were like, Marley Marl was pioneering sampling. And I got to work with him directly in the beginnings of Uptown. Like him and Teddy Riley, those are like my two big brothers, one in hip hop, one in R&B. But that was like we came in the cutting edge of sampling. Time where you couldn't even save samples. You had to sample it and leave your machine on, because if you turn it off, it would erase. So I'm used to seeing technology and how technology could change a whole industry. And for that matter, even going back to hip hop, going back to hip hop with turntable and, somebody like, putting their hand on the record, scratching the record, that was disruptive. It was, it was using a turntable in a way that it was never intended to be used. So I'm kind of used to this disruption. I embrace it, but like a lot of people I know in the music business are just trying to figure out how this all comes together, because now you not only have digital music, now you have, blockchain, you have DeFi, you have NFTs, you have all these things. You have AI, which now AI, forget it. It's like there's so many, it's like almost like, okay, just when you thought you might have had a handle on it, okay, we're trying to figure out this NFT thing and trying to figure out blockchain, and then bam, here comes AI. It's like, oh, it's like, so there's a lot of disruption going on, but at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity for new technologies to change the entertainment and music experience in ways that it's never been presented before. So for me, I'm embracing it. There's some people, just like with anything, that's always gonna, resist new technology. And you have that in the music business as well. But it's coming. It's coming whether you embrace it or not.
Facts. Steve, you muted.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
That might have been me. Uh-oh.
There you go.
Champ, are we pinned? Because usually this never happens like this.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we had a conversation behind the scenes, and we talked about how well do you think the music industry has a handle on technology right now?
I don't think the music industry has a handle on technology at all. And I don't say that in any kind of bad or disrespectful way. I just think it's changing. It's changing so fast. You guys are in this like day in and day out, and there's so much new disruptive technology coming out just surrounding, blockchain and DeFi. And the other thing that happened, and I knew this was going to happen, I just didn't talk about it too much because I didn't want all my friends to think I was crazy. We went through a period with blockchain and crypto where it went through. So first we had okay, it's here, and we had the last bull run. And the last bull run reminds me of, the dot-com bubble, so it was kind of like everybody's jumping on, people were jumping on, with, what's that coin.com and who are you .crypto. And it was just like, and I knew you had like thousands and thousands of coins. And it's just like, if people go back, you had the same thing that happened in the .com. At one point, you had everybody just saying website, hey, we're hot.com and we just got, millions of dollars and we don't do anything. We just and it was a bubble that burst. But the websites and the domains that actually had a function, that there was a company behind, or they served a purpose, or there actually was a marketplace, like, the Amazons.com, the Apple.com, the Microsofts, and those became powerhouses, and they went on to, make millions and billions of dollars, and basically change the whole landscape of, how we just interacted with technology. And I think the same exact thing is going to happen with, with DeFi, crypto, and blockchain. So I think what just happened a little while ago you had everybody just jumping in and just saying, hey, I got a coin, and it may not have a purpose. So there was a bust, and then people were like kind of like, oh, that's a scam, and not realizing there's a scam. You just had a bandwagon effect where everybody was jumping on. So if you don't really understand the technology and you don't see like a use case and a function, you're not gonna have just services for the point of having services. They have to fulfill something. They have to have a function. And when you look at that with crypto and blockchain, there's a huge opportunity, and it's coming right now. And you see like you see now like Bitcoin ETF, and then now they're talking about Ethereum ETF. So meanwhile, while some people were saying, oh, this is a scam, and then and then all these like big companies say, hey, this is a great technology. Let's get ourselves in position, and then we'll let everybody know that it's real and it's cool. So I think that's where we are now. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah. And that's one of the main drivers of why Champ and I started Skyton Academy. We focus on educating first, right? So during the time of the NFTs, this was right after we were still in the pandemic, but money was flowing through the community. That created a lot of FOMO. It was the first time that people were even ever investing in different asset classes, whether it be stock options, crypto. The community finally felt accepted, right?
Right.
But everybody missed the mark because you weren't educated.
Right.
And this is why, Champ and I weren't fan favorites during that time, because we told all our students, like, listen, this NFT situation is 2025 to 2030. That needs mass adoption. You can't buy it from Ray in the hood. It has no case use, like you said. So we didn't get too many. We always lead with the truth, right? And we told everybody this industry is going to crash. If not 100%, you'll lose at least 90% off of some of the biggest NFT projects, and we saw it happen.
Right.
So you need corporate adoption first before mass adoption comes. Anytime mass adoption comes, especially when it's our community,
right.
they just didn't embrace the knowledge first. If they did, they would be in a better position today, as opposed to not wanting to get involved in it because they lost, what they lost in the time.
Right.
I'm glad you pointed that out. So being that you're still, you got to start it with in the 90s, and then now you're still here. So which then the test of time. What advice or what key challenges do artists and producers face today in the music landscape, from your vantage point?
One of the things now that's happening is what's the word I can use? Almost an oversaturation, but that's not necessarily, that's kind of the word. Let me explain what I mean. And a lot of distractions. That's what I really mean. You have a lot of choices for your time. Used to be before the internet, before smartphones, before streaming media, social media, Instagram. You had limited choices. You had TV, you might have a DVR, you had cable, you had radio, you had there were certain places you went for entertainment. Now entertainment is everywhere. It's almost like, think of it like this. Think of it when you used to get regular mail versus now email. I don't know if I have any friends where they can say, hey, I read all my emails. My whole email box is clean. It's like and it's kind of like that with entertainment now. There's so much out there. And the other thing that's happened is that the barrier of entry has been lowered. So it used to be where there was it used to cost several $1,000s to go in the studio, so just for one session. So you either had to have that money or you had to have somebody that would put up that money for you. So it usually either was a sponsor, a big producer, or a record company. And then you had to record it, mix it down, and then you used to have a record company would have to put that out, whether that meant press up cassettes, vinyl, CDs, whatever it was, they had to manufacture it. Now, and I'm not joking, I'm just gonna be flat with this. A person could go in their living room, sing a song. It could be great, or it could be totally off key and be garbage. And they can just upload it to a service, and they could get it out there, and they could get it on all the streaming services. That never could happen before. So what happens is now you still have quality music, but you got a lot of noise out there too. I think there's like something like 50 or 60,000 releases, digital releases, like per day or something like that. Which is like crazy. So that's the biggest challenge for artists today, is that if you're new, you have to fight to be recognized, to be heard, to be seen. And that's the challenge. And so even though all the tools are there, you know, we have the social media, you can promote yourself, you have Instagram, you have YouTube, you have Facebook and whatever other means. It's a challenge because there's a lot of other people out there. And some of it's good and some of it's not good. And so that I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges for new artists, getting through the noise.
So considering you came from the era of artist development, I believe you're still in that space, right? You truly believe that you develop artists first before breaking anything.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So there's a dichotomy. There's two sides to this thing, right? Because you could have the soldier boys, right? Because we're talking about Web 2.0 now. We're embarking on 3.0. Like you said, technology gave access to people to be able to get to this point. Good, bad, or indifferent. There's just opportunity, right? We have Justin Bieber. We have Soulja Boy. Like, these are some of the earlier guys on YouTube that were just singing covers and doing all sorts of stuff, right? To create viral moments before we even knew what the term viral was.
Right.
You know? So what advice would you give an aspiring musician or producer today if they came to you?
One of the things is, and I'm kind of like on this now, and I realize this, the same principles apply that applied before, meaning it still takes time to develop an artist. It still takes time to develop talent. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen right away. One of the things I noticed this trend last year, I was looking at a lot of songs that have become big hits. You know, a lot of Afrobeat songs, a lot of R&B songs. And I was looking at the release dates on the singles. A lot of these songs were like a year old, 2 years old. And they were just becoming hits now. Like I said, you know, people are looking for that instant hit. As soon as they put out a song, you know, it'll go viral. And you do have that. You have that. Sometimes that happens. You have artists that come out, they do something, song goes viral, their video goes viral. They have a dance that goes viral. But back in the days, that used to be like kind of like the kind of anomaly. Like it wasn't you didn't look for that for everything. Now people look for that for every release. They want every release to blow up immediately. And that's not. So if you're a new artist or producer or whatever, I would say stick to your craft and continue to put out quality music, and don't necessarily look for it to happen overnight. I was looking at the Grammys, artist Victoria Monet. She won a Grammy. She was talking about her journey and how it took a while. She didn't just get up there overnight. And I think she has great music, by the way. I love her music, her songs, everything. But it took time. It took years for her to get there. She was writing for other people. Yeah. And so artists have to get back to that. And I've been talking about this with a lot of people in my circle. Got to get back to artist development. And this is not new. This used to happen even with rap. Rappers used to not come out with a song and an album weeks later. A lot of rappers came out with, you know, a single, and then another single 5 months later, and then another single the next year later. And then people, once they had a fan base, then they put out an album. I don't think it's the same way in terms of time. You know, you can release more music more frequently, but it's gonna take time for you to build a brand and for people to understand that you are consistent. Because people want to see consistency. They want to say, okay, every time this person puts out a song, I like this song. And then they might say, okay, let me check out their album. But there's a lot of choices out here. There's a lot of choices. And you got to compete against those distractions. But yeah, that artist development is in a nutshell. Artist development and time, and stay on your craft.
So I'll just play devil's advocate here. Mind you, I grew up in the 70s, so I'm not in agreement with a lot of things I see. So when you see the Shiggy Drake effect, right? It's an anomaly. That's lightning in a bottle, right? It probably won't happen again. Then you see the Sexy Red.
Yep.
Or even the Cardi B. And this has nothing to do with talent or not. I'm just throwing out some things just to get your opinion on. A lot of kids have a microwave mentality nowadays, and you can't tell them what they're not seeing right now. Right. So no matter what the probability is, no one talks about that part. Right. They just see that final product, and you kind of look at it and you're like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then that creates the 50,000 songs per day that we have today.
Yep. So
what's your take on that aspect?
Okay. So I'm going to say something that I know is not going to be popular. It's not going to be popular with my friends. It might be popular with artists, but it's definitely not going to be popular with people in the bit. I think it's the business, the industry. It's our responsibility, because if we're supposed to be the professionals, then we're supposed to be the ones that say, okay, we know how to develop our artists over time. And we take certain artists, and we have to get back to identifying talent and saying, we think that's special, and we're going to stick with this, and we're going to help develop it, and we're going to cultivate it over time. We can't blame the talent or the artist, or if somebody comes and they're excited and they think, hey, I have this song and the song is great, and put the song out. Okay, the song might be great. It might be ready to be put out. They might be great. They might have everything. And I'm gonna go old for a minute. And I don't know. Some people may not. If you don't know, you probably seen the tape. Jackson 5 audition. There was, young Michael Jackson was dancing around. He was great. He was a star. He had talent. He was singing the song. But somebody, Berry Gordy and those people, they still identified and said, even though he's great, we can make him greater than what he is. We could take that talent that's not honed yet, and we can make it extra special, because we could bring him into our family. And now we can show him some of the things that we know as professionals and make that great. You can't have the equivalent of, hey, we see the Jackson 5, they're great. Just push them out on stage and let them figure it out however the best they can. You got to help and guide the artist. And this happens in everything, by the way. It's not just music. It's just like it's anything else. Just like talent scouts. It's just like in football. It's just like, this guy's great. Basketball, football. He had a great arm. You have a coach that says, let me guide this talent. Let me take this natural talent, natural ability, and let me actually refine it and help guide this person along the way. And I think we're missing a lot of that, because it turned into a numbers game of how many views, how many, likes, how many, and that's cool. That's cool for some things. We have fast food out here, and then we have quality restaurants too. It's the same thing with music. You don't have to say we don't have to get rid of fast food, but we gotta also have quality. We gotta have, meals that are cooked well. We gotta have artists that are developed over time. And we gotta have divisions that say we're gonna commit resources to find and cultivate talent over time. And it's not going to necessarily pay off right now. It may pay off 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now. And so that's what I think we need to do. You can't stop any kind of creativity. And I started as a DJ, so I'm definitely not one of those people like, I definitely don't get into that. This music, the old music, the new music, the guys, the new rap, the old. I think there's hit records and duds in every generation. There's hit records and and bad songs at every age. There's one hit wonders at every age. And there's quality music. There's quality music, new artists. There's incredible new artists out here. There's also artists that just, that sound like they just they just going trying to go viral. They just trying to throw something against it, see what sticks. But that's happened all the time. That's happened all the time, So, Biggie has this song. He's talking about Rapping Duke. I remember when Rapping Duke came out. He's like, remember Rapping Duke? Like, it's like we always had those records too, where it was like a novelty. Don't knock. We had what's the guy? Weird Al Yankovic, who was like doing parodies of every song, and he was a hit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's a market for all of this. So I'm not here to hate on any artist, anybody that's successful. If you Russell Simmons used to have this saying. He used to say he could sell 1 million of any album. He just had to figure out how to connect that artist, how to find their audience. And I thought that was something that was profound, that he would say, now, of course, you have to have quality, but I think that's what happens now. If you have quality artists, now you have to just find your audience, and they're all different levels of audience. And that's what people need help with now.
Yeah. So on a personal note, if I went to your playlist right now, what was the last 2 tracks you played? Personally.
What was the last 2 tracks I played? I don't even remember. I'm putting out some new projects, so I was listening to a lot of internal music. Who did I listen to? Chris Brown, Sensational, Afrobeats. I'm on Afrobeats now. I love it. Afrobeats reminds me of when hip hop started. I think we're in the, and Afrobeats it's R&B, but it's R&B for the youth. And still quality songs. And it reminds me, that's how it was when hip hop first started mixing with R&B. It was like it was the same R&B, but now it had the hip hop tones, and that's kind of like what made it young. And I feel like that same kind of trend is happening now with Afrobeats. So Chris Brown, Sensational, and then I've mentioned Victoria Monet, listening to her stuff. I like her stuff. There's a lot of quality artists. Water, Tyler. Yeah, it's a lot of quality stuff out here, man. There's actually, believe it or not, and this, if people really just do the statistics, there's probably more quality artists out now than there was back when we only had physical product. Because back when we only had physical product, there was slots. Like you couldn't, there was only a certain amount of people that could come out in a week, and people were fighting for that space because there wasn't enough radio slots for ads and for people. So you have a lot of music out and a lot of like niche like playlists. But if now the ratio you might have. And what I mean by that, let me just break this down in numbers. Let's just say any given year you put out, there was like 100 albums from like quality artists, and R&B, urban, now you may have 150. They might not be albums, but singles, 150 songs. But the issue is there's 100,000 songs that are not quality. So it makes it seem like it's just a lot of, it makes it seem like it's not a lot of quality music out, but there is quality music out.
Yeah. Now you definitely got to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the segment where we discuss the future outlook, and then we start to connect, because this is Connect Wednesday. So this is where Champ and I get in and we connect what we do. And then we'll bring you into the conversation to show how the music landscape. And it's great that you're a big tech guy also, right? Because we could be talking to a lot of guys in the industry, right, who would probably hang up on us, like, I'm out of here. This is the segment where it can get a little touchy for some people that are out there listening, right?
Yep.
So the future outlook. I'm gonna run down some stats for you guys, and this is how we'll start the combo. So this is going back this past year going into last year, right? So I'm just gonna name a few artists that sold their catalogs, and I want to get your take on it. So Dr. Dre in 23, he sold for 250 million, right? But I think he ended up getting 200 million, right? He pitched it. The ZZ Tops, they sold their catalog in 2020 for 50 million. Who else we got? Justin Bieber in 23, his entire catalog, 200 million. Iggy, and I was a little surprised by this one. She got an 8-figure deal. We got Iggy. Phil Collins, he sold his catalog for 300 million in 2022. So what's your take? And I'll connect the dots on why I know they sold it and why people are paying this much money for it. But would you sell your catalog for the right price?
I don't know. I've been saying no, but I don't know. My gut says no, but you just never know when the right price comes. One thing I do know is music is valuable. Copyrights and music is valuable, and it's becoming more valuable because the listener base is actually growing. And I actually had this conversation with a couple of my friends in the business. So as you have Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal and these services, as they keep expanding from country to country and say, okay, now we launched in India. Okay, now we launched in Africa. Okay, now we launched in South America. What's happening is the base of users is expanding. We still haven't gotten to the whole globe yet. And so music is becoming more and more valuable. Also, at the same time, these rates are going up. The copyright board has increased the rate. There's a retro payment that's due now. You might see on social media, people have been posting like there's a $400 million payout to the music publishers from retro payments that's coming. And the thing that's funny, people don't even know that's from like the last 3 to 5 years. There's another increase that's already coming now, meaning they're paying from the increase that was due 3 to 5 years ago, and then it's getting ready to go up again. So music is becoming more and more valuable, and it's turning into music and masters, copyrights, whatever, are becoming it's becoming a whole nother asset class. It's actually becoming a tradable, bankable, asset class because it turns over consistent revenue now.
That's a lot of money coming out of the pipeline.
Yep.
So here's where we bridge the gap, right? And Champ being a music guy, and we talked about it. So at the Academy, we're not just here as a teaching platform. This year we started a vertical where we started to integrate business ideas that we've had, right, utilizing crypto and blockchain technology. Because it's one thing to have the education and the data and be able to spit it back out to the community, but it's another. I'm a serial entrepreneur first, not an educator, right? So I did this out of a calling that I got, because I could have easily sat on this information. I told all my friends and family, and like you, they probably thought I was really crazy back then, but now it's probably making a little bit more sense, right? Because every time the price goes up, my phone's ringing. Right. So there is some interest, but people aren't really dipping their toe in, but in time, right? So we have a branch and a division that we're doing at Skyton Academy where we're consulting for a lot of different industries now, right? Because we have the data now, we could assist Fortune 500 companies all the way down to individuals in how they could be better prepared for the future now instead of waiting, right? So when I looked at the sales, and we had to talk about this, there's a term in cryptocurrency called tokenization. So I tell guys, understand this: if they can offer you 200 million, why not 4? Why not 8? Why are they even giving you that much money right now in this economy? Right? The dollar is dwindling. We know that already. It's losing value. So if I give you 200 million today, it's not going to be worth that tomorrow if you don't put that in an asset. So it's great that you mentioned that music is an asset class.
Right.
Okay. So guys are finding ways to park money, but the powers that are buying this aren't in the business of just parking money.
Right.
This is where tokenization comes in. When I was running around in New York, this was during the Blue Flame marketing days, right? So I was my own individual marketer, but I was that guerrilla guy who had more vision than what was already out there in the industry. So when I saw the MP3 stuff coming, I went back to a lot of my label contacts, and every meeting I had was about getting back to tangibles. I said, and this is in the 2000s, right? So it's even a bigger conversation now, and you could bring on the that 21 Savage thing if you want to talk about it with the actual physical album, if you want to just touch on that after. So as I'm knocking down these doors, I remember, and I was just talking to my wife about that. We had a meeting with Burt Bedell, right? And we can't remember what the whole full meeting was about, because if you ever been to his office, he's all about collector's items. So his office is just, right?
Yeah.
So those of you who don't know, Burt Bedell was the guy behind a lot of these big artists that we knew in the 90s. He basically managed their money, right? So I can remember him telling me in the office that day, these guys might as well work at fast food restaurants. This is how the meeting ended, right? So at that time, you're thinking, there's no way these guys don't have money, but I don't know the back workings of the label. I just knew there was a lot of intermediary, right? There was always this guy walked me in, then I got to go to this guy, then this guy. And I'm just like, I always felt like a threat when I walked into offices. So I never got that far, right? I'm the scoop by the door. I was just there to present products and ideas. I wasn't looking for work. I just needed to consult.
Right.
So today, with the information I have, it's almost personal for me to get back into that business and disrupt it in some sort of way.
Got you.
Right. So we have a division where we're consulting. So I tell guys, listen, why sell your catalog for 200 million? You look at tokenization right now. The power has always been in the people's hands. And I'm always the guy who's been preaching that for a while. And I'll tell artists, and we spoke about that too, when you talk about artist development, it doesn't always have to start at the boardroom. Okay.
Right.
I come from the school of thought of start the business, feed the people, make the adjustments, because the people are going to tell me what my product is, like similar, probably Russell Simmons situation, finding that audience, you know?
Yep.
And I've been eating off the land. So I'm a serial entrepreneur my whole life. So I've never worked for somebody. So it's easy for me to just adopt this mindset where I can know that it's pretty hard, right? Because we talked about labels being banks at the end of the day.
Right.
And everyone has to go to the bank. Right. I have to invest in self. So I don't really take that route. So this is why I can come up with some wacky ideas and build verticals. So I'm telling new artists, I'm like, this tokenization situation is removing the middleman from it. So if they're able to pay this guy 200 million, all they're going to do is break down this record, and they're going to allow everybody to have a piece of history now in the world, right? Because we're still not fully connected to the world.
Right.
So what's your take on tokenizing a catalog, or maybe even your catalog, if you've ever looked at that aspect?
I would love to do something like that. And I think, again, I don't know if it's popular with the industry, but Tory Lanez had done something with, I thought it was brilliant when he put out his album, and I think he put it out as an NFT.
Yep.
He sold it like 1 million albums for $1 each album. But the genius was on smart contract. So then once they were all sold, limited availability. So then now all of a sudden, the price, the value rises. But then now on resales, every time somebody resells, exchanges, written right into the NFT smart contract, you get a percentage of that resale. So now you have, you just have a whole ecosystem. I just thought that was brilliant. And I think that's like the type of direction that we're going into with everything, not just music. I mean, it's gonna be everything: collectibles, memorabilia, just merchandising. Period. So I think, it remains to be seen how it's gonna go. The only dilemma I do see is at some point there's probably going to be what can I say? Call it format wars. Um, which so like I have this weird way of looking at companies, blockchains, and coins and tokens. I kind of look at them like if I had to compare, I would compare like Bitcoin to say like IBM and say like Ethereum to maybe
Yahoo.
MS-DOS or just like different coins and then I'm just throwing out these like say Cardano, Apple, and at some point it's gonna be like which blockchain is gonna dictate and maybe Bitcoin's not necessarily a good example because no smart contract, but for the ones that have smart contracts, which one is going to be the standard? Right now, it looks like Ethereum, but there was a time when it looked like it was going to be IBM, and then Microsoft came, and then Apple came, and there was Tandy, and there was and there was what's that other computer? I can't even think of the other computer, but there were all these different. There was Atari. There were all these. So I feel like we're in that. As a tech person, I feel like we're in that range where which blockchain has the best use case for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So with tokenization, with NFTs, a lot of times NFTs are on the Ethereum, but there's other chains, other blockchains coming. And what I know about technology is that it's always somebody trying to improve, trying to innovate. Now, from what I can see, Ethereum's not going anywhere because it's like kind of, it's his grandfathered in at this point. You got the big boys in it. But there's gonna be, other people. And does that mean, I don't know what's gonna start happening. Is Ethereum gonna say, hey, we wanna merge or have have some kind of strategic partnership with Cardano, or whoever. I don't know. And that's to me is the unknown. What's going to happen with all of this? And it's not just about the coins and the money. It's really like what can this stuff do? V-chain. I mean, and it's like we really just at the edge. We're like at the cutting edge of this technology. So like one thing I do know is where we are now, 5 years from now, it's going to be totally different. It's going to be like, it's just so, I'm excited about that, but it is going to be, it's going to be a whirlwind because the other thing too is that it's moving fast and it's only going to move faster. I was looking at this. There was this guy who was talking about the velocity of business and how he went through a timeline on how, back in whatever the 1900s, like how long it took for a company to scale to like say like I think it was like $1 million or $1 billion something. And I don't remember what exact scale was, but what the point was, there was X company, and let's just say if it was Ford or whatever it was, I can't remember the company, but it was a company and it took 50 years, General Electric to get to whatever, like $100 million in revenue. Then it was like another company. It took like 10 years to get it. And then there was another company. It took like, 2 years. Then there was another company. It took like, a year. And then it was like, Facebook, and it took like, 8 months. And basically it was showing the velocity of business. And what was happening is that companies, they were making money so fast and they were acquiring customers so fast. So I think that's part of what's going to happen with technology and with blockchain it's like a geometric progression. Like it's going to take, it might take, it took where we at now, 2008. So in 2024. So it took, what was that? 16 years or whatever for Bitcoin. But once people get it, then the next coin is going to be like, 6 months, and then the next coin would be a month, and then people be like, "Oh man!" Then it get to the point where it's like almost like, who's coming with the new, blockchain? Is going to be like an instant adoption. And if you solve something that needs to be solved, you can really accelerate quickly. So that's where we at.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of X's. Where question marks and X's. Who are these players going to be? Somebody's going to be there.
Yeah. And, we talk about that too. So the crypto and blockchain is actually moving 4 times faster than the adoption of the internet. And it's because we already have the internet here.
Right.
Right. So now all they're doing is once they get to 5G and they start getting the world connected, right? Because there's still, I get, when you're in the United States and you don't travel, you don't realize how big the world is, and you don't realize how remote the world is either.
Right.
So you have emerging markets like Africa.
Right.
Even Afrobeats, we play it in the house all the time. One, because I just don't need to understand what people are saying, and I just love the vibe.
Right.
Right. It gives me that 90s feeling. I know some of the artists, but I don't know most of them that go on the playlist that we just leave here. I just know it gives a good energy to the house when I'm here.
Right.
So I'm all with you with the artist development. Now with blockchain and cryptocurrency, the biggest disruptor is it removes the middleman from the equation. So what happens to these so-called, like we keep hearing these gatekeepers, and I'm not asking for any names, but we, you just hear this hierarchy of these people, and you don't know who they really are, because it can't really be the people that we see every day. Right. I'm a firm believer in that. That's not the guy. There's a guy behind the guy. So does a guy like that handle this technology knowing that he or she, right, can't control it? It's people ran and driven. That's the premise of it. Not saying that everyone's going to be on that same accord. Do you see some of these of the Roman Empire? Is it falling? Will it fall?
I don't think it will fall. I think there's going to be a coexistence. And and hopefully there'll be a merger. How long it's going to take, I'm not sure. How long? So there was a time when I used rap as a model. There was a time when rap was just like renegade. There was a bunch of singles. There were indies everywhere. It wasn't really at the majors. Def Jam was one of the first companies that had a consistent joint venture with a major label that consistently bought rap product. Before that, there were a few artists. I think Curtis Blow was on Mercury, but Curtis Blow, again, was with Rush Management. It still was the same infrastructure. Still was Russell Simmons, and they were doing deals with Mercury. The biggest label before that was Sugar Hill, but Sugar Hill was independent. And so I think some of that's going to happen. There's going to be some indies. There's going to be a bunch of independent projects. There'll be like some big independent companies. But at some point, the big majors are going to come in and say, we need to partner with these companies or acquire them and or the technology. And either that, or it could go the other way. Either that's going to happen or the technology is going to absorb them. And what I mean by that is, and I went through this too. So when I was executive vice president of Motown, I was at Polygram. And I noticed something was going on with these companies. So Universal was, at the time, they had Panavision. And it was and then they were for a period, I think they were owned by Panasonic or something like that. And then you had Sony, which was Sony. Sony was a technology company. It was CBS, but then Sony acquired it. Polygram had, Motown, Island, Def Jam. They acquired, and I noticed something. And I said, wow. I said, Polygram, there was a format war going on, because what I didn't know before I worked there was that Polygram actually were the people that they had invented, and then it may not be Polygram. It's either Polygram, Polydor. I'm not sure which one, but they had invented the compact cassette, and then they also had the technology for the CD. And so I kind of figured out that all these companies were fighting. Sony had the mini disc; they were trying to introduce this mini disc. Polygram was trying to do the handoff from the cassette to the CD. Panasonic was cool because they're like, we're cool because we're in it's Panasonic Panavision, which was the biggest movie camera at that time. And they were cool. They had Universal Pictures. So they were like, we got what we want. We got the movie making house. But I noticed all the technology. What people didn't know was technology companies owned the music companies. Then they ended up selling them off to different divisions. So what I say by that is, I don't know if it's going to be the music companies acquiring digital technology, blockchain companies, or if it's going to go in reverse. Meaning, I don't know if Meta, Microsoft, Google, whoever, I don't know if they might buy a music, or Apple might buy a music company. I don't know. Anything could happen. All it is an announcement, hey, Apple buys RCA Music Group. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but just it could happen. They got the money. It's not about the money. So I don't know which way it's gonna go. Or it could be the music companies acquiring or developing tech. But I think one of those things is gonna happen. There's gonna be some mergers, some acquisitions, some development of new technology. Because the technology is moving very fast. And consumers are on it. And there's a lot of consumers around the globe that are accessing this content.
Yeah. I like that point you made. So I got a little bit to connect on that one. So because, and this is from studying a lot of the guys who own the companies that we're investing in now in cryptocurrency, right? Yeah. And the sentiment is the same all across the board. So when you look at the history of just the Industrial Revolution, right? When you look back in the 1900s, every single Industrial Revolution had one thing in common. It was led by technology. So now you have to ask yourself, how much more verticals can we do since the internet was created? We've seen robots. We've seen AI artists come and go, right? We've seen deep fake, right? This might not even be Eddie right here, right? Right. So you're seeing the power of all things that can be generated here. So when I listen to these guys speak, there's one word that they all use, and it's decentralization. So when you start to look at the Dogecoins, the Shiba Inus, the one thing that I like about those projects, right? Forget the case use. Just think about the power of when people come together and say, I'm gonna put $1 in this. You could raise more capital than any oil guy that's going to give Universal any money, right? Without any stipulations of how you run your business. Right. But during the pandemic, I watched and I studied. I noticed every artist that wasn't on the road performing, you know what they did? They went back and they got with the people. You could speak to Usher on the phone. They're on lives. They're on Clubhouse and all sorts of stuff. And I said, you know what? These guys don't deserve to be here in the future, right? Because you should always have that in your back pocket, right? Not the $300 ticket, not the $500. Like, where is it going to go to a point where we can't even afford to really see these people anymore? This is where these verticals are going, right? So just so we can connect dots, there's 3 pieces of technology right now that I feel will affect the music industry and all industries, right? So we're talking about crypto, blockchain technology. I like to pool those together. We have tokenization, and then we have Web3, right? Right. So you mentioned the Tory Lane situation, so I'll just jump back. So with the blockchain technology, what it does for artists is it gives them control. Now, I'm not talking about the guys who are in contract for 90 albums and all things, right? We're talking about these new guys coming in. So when you understand blockchain technology and the use of smart contracts, you start to realize that it offers them a direct relationship to their audience. Right. Okay, so I've watched the Lil Wayne and Young Thugger situation happen. Labels, what they do, the genius behind it is they own the data. The money's in the data, right? Because they can make another artist if they want. And it's been done before. Right. Because they're taking the data, they're taking the blueprint. So, Cardi and them, that's an offspring of Kim, and the rest goes on. Right. So they're doing a great job at that. So when I tell my young artists that come to us for consultation, when they start to understand the knowledge first, because that's the important part. Before you take meetings, you better be versed in a lot of things. Right. Right. So your parents trusted you because you were able to meet certain milestones that they felt, you know what, let this guy go out on his own and we're going to allow him to fly. Right. Okay. So the decentralized approach ensures that artists receive fair compensation for their creative efforts. You shouldn't have to make money when you die. Right. Right. If that. right? Because we don't even know if the family's going to benefit off of that. So then transactions from this direct don't have intermediaries, right? So when I send you money now, we're not on the Federal Reserve. It's not running through central banks. There's no Visa, MasterCard taking a cut.
Right.
Outside of Ethereum, like I would never send anything to you with that network because it's just expensive and old. So that's an Atari cartridge. That's a Nintendo cartridge that we blow into.
Right.
So there's no future in that. There's future in maybe some of those projects, but Champ likes to use the word interoperability. And that means when people are able to jump from one blockchain to another without losing any sort of business, you're going to start seeing them moving over to what blockchain?
XRP.
That's it. Right. So we're calling it now. It's on record. So the next thing is the tokenization, the Tory Lane situation. He went on and he says, I cracked the code. And in essence, do you feel he might have cracked something with that one?
Yeah, he did. He definitely did.
How's he doing now?
So how's he doing now?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think he's jammed up somewhere.
Right. So when you're in crypto, and I tell guys who are in crypto are a little bit paranoid and we question all things.
Yeah.
Right? So there's always a rabbit hole behind stuff, but we'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
So with the NFTs, it's a way that artists could transform their music into digital assets. Now we're back to the asset situation.
Yeah.
Right. So it opens up opportunities for fans to directly support the artist by purchasing this. So I've watched like Russ and I've watched Russ, the kid from the West Coast.
Yeah.
You get with your audience, you bring them into the creative process, you let them title the record, you let them give you the feedback of the record, right? Because comedians do this too. They, no matter how big they are, you might pop into any comedy cellar and you'll see Dave Chappelle working on something.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So when you start to bring the audience in, they're going to tell you by laughing. They're going to tell you by giving you an emoji. So now when you tell them, listen, you can invest in this release, you know how quick these boys could raise $50 million on something that's real?
Right.
Instantaneous.
That's the power of NFT. So I just want to really educate people on this call because more people will see the replay on this than what's live here. And then the Web3 part, it enables a fairer royalty distribution. And this works for the labels too, right? It's showing that reducing royalty distributions using blockchain technology can reduce the cost by 40 to 80%.
Wow.
So I'm talking this right now, and there's people in the labels that they can't hear me out because I understand the contracts that they have in place. It defies what's in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I can't speak for everybody, but I'm just telling you the conversations I've had have always stopped because there's someone there making sure that this conversation doesn't go too far. So when you remove the middleman, the intermediary, unnecessary administrative costs, right? Because we know a lot of this shit is ballooned. Okay. Now you lead to more efficient and cost-effective royalty management system. So this is good even for the bigwigs.
Right.
Because everybody's worried about bottom line. So what was the reason for this mass firing that I've been hearing about this year with the labels? What are these people going to do?
I'm not sure what the reason is. I'm not in a label, so okay. I don't know, but I'm just.
But is that happening though? Because I just want to confirm.
It's happening. It's happening, and I think it's just due to changing. I think it's just due to changing technology and changing. My perception is that, and this is just speculation. Nobody has told me this. It's just you don't need as many people because things are becoming more automated. You have, less need because a lot of the labels were just doing like, analytics, analyzation. You have changing markets with just, streaming, radio, things like that. Yep. And so at a point, just gets to a point where people review and say, hey, it's just like at this point, that's more like a corporate thing. I'll put it like this. The layoffs to me are more of a corporate than a creative thing. I think it's labels saying, do we need these amount of people to accomplish the same number of sales or the same, to bring in the same amount of artists? And the answer is no. Now, the flip side of that is, I think labels are going to have to get back to what we talked about early on, is being more creative and identifying talent that's special, not just, you might have an artist that's special and they might have they might have 1,000 followers, but they might have a sound that sounds like that's something special. That's what used to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the original music business. The original music business, when you signed great artists, they didn't have a bunch of followers and following. They might have had their town. They might have had their high school. They might have had, their talent show.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I know when we got our deal, we didn't have, I'll put it to you like this. When we got our deal, we absolutely didn't have more than 5,000 fans.
Mm-hmm.
We might have had 500, maybe our town. You know what I mean? We had our town. But somebody said they have talent. I like their sound. Andre Ferrel signed us. And it was like that with a lot of executives. They saw it. Sometimes some artists didn't have any fans. Some artists had their family. And they brought them to an executive. I just watched Clive Davis documentary the other day. I mean, brilliant. And nobody in the music business would say otherwise than Clive Davis, one of the greatest musical, brilliant minds of our generation. A lot of people, some people he signed, he saw them at an event or they were doing, a festival. But then some people he signed, he just thought they had something. They had a spark. They were special. He loved their voice. He loved what they were doing. True story. L.A. Reid, another, incredible executives, discovered numerous superstars. When I bought him Donnell Jones, and Donnell testified to this, we went in the room, Donnell sang for him. He said, "Yeah, man." He said, "I like it." He said, "You guys want to do this?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." He said, "Okay, let's do it." He didn't say, how many fans does he have? How many followers does he have? He said, "I like his sound. He's with somebody that I know has a history of doing quality music. And I think you guys will do something great together." Now, fast forward, we look back and, he tells me that's one of his highlights of being at LaFace, one of his favorite albums that he did that stand the test of time when we were at LaFace is, Donnell Jones. So we got to get back to that. Executives hearing something special in the talent, in the artist, and saying, "I'm going to bet on the talent and I'm going to help develop this talent and not just the numbers."
Mm-hmm. It's great hearing you. The one word that pops out at me is visionary, right? So if you weren't rooted in being able to, and this is why I could see how you could acclimate in this crypto space, right? You've been operating from a stance of, doesn't matter who you are, where I met you. If I hear it, I have the vision, I can see it.
Right.
Right. And that's one of the things that we preach here is, listen, we really just want to, open up the world of possibility to people, but really I'm in the business of making people believe in themselves at the end of the day and not waiting for somebody to put something in front of you.
Right.
We had a question in here and people want to know, what is Eddie doing right now?
I'm working on new music.
Press play.
I'm doing some mining of crypto.
Okay. Are you in that deep end group?
Yes, I'm in. I just got in the deep end group.
Okay.
So I'm in the deep end group.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get as much knowledge and information as I can as far as the blockchain and crypto space. Right now, I mean, this is a huge opportunity. I know you guys been talking about this and like basically, screaming with bullhorns, telling people to get involved because this is a big deal. People don't understand. This is Microsoft starting. This is Apple starting. This is Google starting. This is all of everything that we know now that's major, Facebook. This is all this starting. But take that and then multiply it times 5, times 10, times 20, because that's how much bigger it's going to be. So People need to get involved. They need to, get educated on this technology. I'm glad I found you guys, because I really like, you guys' approach. It's straight to the point. It's like, it's not a lot of fluff. You guys also, you tell the good news as well as the bad news or the pitfalls, and it's straightforward. I like the fact that it's straightforward. It's not like, hey, all this is gonna be great. It's like, hey, you go here, you'll lose like 95%. This is gonna be a bloodbath here, and you guys tell that part of it too, which people need to hear. They need to, and better yet, develop an understanding for themselves and learn, and then they could see why this is being said and why people are being given this information. But it's an exciting time. This is the most exciting time that I've been in technology since when computers really started, home computers, Apple, Tandy, all of that, and then sampling, so I've been a part of like several technological revolutions, and this is another one, but this is probably the biggest one from a financial standpoint. This is like probably biggest.
Hands down.
I want to put you back in that Napster space, because you brought that up, right?
Yes.
What you have this catalog, you have this young kid who just came, and he's in the crypto market too. BTT. So, and it's all about file sharing, similar, just with blockchain. So put yourself in that space. These guys your music is now being distributed and there's no money coming in. What were you thinking at that time?
When the music is out?
Well, I'm not saying no money was coming in, but there's a disruptor in the room right now, right? This is before you guys kind of ironed out whatever the issues were with Napster and the sharing of music. Did you see it? Did you feel a hit? Did the industry feel a hit in that moment? Did they feel threatened for the first time ever? Or what was that space like, that climate?
The industry definitely felt a hit. And for me, it was strange because I was in technology and music. I had a couple of different ideas. I was like, hey, we should just do this. We should do that. We should, at one point, true story, I was trying to, Apple had an iPod that it was iPod mini or something. It was plastic. It was like really cheap. It was like $40 or something like that. I was trying to put together a deal where artists could create a branded player, like, and preload their album on the player and sell it for value added and have a limited amount of I actually I was consulting the Def Jam at the time. I talked to L.A. Reid. He actually spoke to Steve Jobs. They were trying to put something together, but that was at a time when Apple was going through their stuff with the Beatles, so they couldn't go into music because I don't know if people know the history of Apple. There was like a lawsuit with them because the name of the Beatles company was Apple, and then Apple had Apple computers, so they couldn't, in their agreement, they couldn't go into music. They settled, and then after they were able to go into music. But I was trying to do that. But there's something interesting that I saw. One of the executives did an interview with the New York Times, and he said a lot of people, and this was the guy who ran Universal at the time. I'm not gonna say his name out of respect because I really respect him a lot. But he said in the article, a lot of people think that at the music companies, we missed it with technology. Like, we missed the MP3 thing. And he said, we didn't miss it. He said, and this is when it was an aha moment for me. He said, we didn't miss it. He said, we're not technology guys. We're music guys. So he said, this would be the equivalent of me. I take my dog to the vet, and my vet says, your dog is sick. We need to operate. Okay, grab a scalpel and come on. And I said, I never thought of it like that because I was always a technology guy. So for me, it was always music and tech. But he basically said, we're music guys. So when this technology thing happened, we didn't miss it. We're just not technology guys. So all that stuff was a foreign language to us. And I said, you know what? And I said, I never even thought about that. So the whole time I was thinking like, man, we should just do this and do that. And they were like, hey, I'm used to picking quality artists and hearing hit music, not trying to figure out what operating system or what, how we package this onto some kind of player. And that's a bunch of what happened in the music business. People were just like, the technology was changing. So the equivalent of a bunch of guys having, working with horses and having, horseshoe places where they change horseshoes for the horses, and cars are coming. And they're like, it's not like, hey, I'm just gonna, stop, doing horseshoes and switch the cars like as an engine. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm used to it was that equivalent. So it took a minute for the business to shift and for people to get their legs up under them. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound disrespectful. It's like, everybody who has that, older relative that you're like, hey, no, grandma, this is an iPod. This is how you're trying to show them how to use it. It was kind of like that moment for the music business. They were just like, what is this? But we got through that. And I think Apple and Steve Jobs was instrumental in that. I think it really helped turn the industry around with iTunes and selling music. And I think Apple helped the industry twice, because I think the first time was with iTunes, and I think the second time was when they did the deal with Dre, with Beats by Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and brought Jimmy Iovine into the company, because people don't realize, they know about the Beats part of the deal, but there also was a streaming service that was part of that deal, and that streaming service became Apple Music. And, you had Spotify, you had Pandora, but when Apple came in with their whole ecosystem of, iPod, iPhone, iPad, computer, and said, we have Apple Music, and then they would, do their events and say, hey, we're gonna have Kanye West come, and we're gonna have this artist come. It just really focused on, now you had a big major corporation that was promoting streaming. And then that, to me, is what kind of got everybody over the hump. And then they started, wherever area they were going in with technology. And then the phone became a juggernaut, because wherever the phone went, emerging market, the music was following and the streaming service was following, So a lot of people don't realize that. But I say, hey, you see Jimmy and Dre, you need to thank them for for helping get, music over the hump and getting streaming into like mass adoption. And I know there's a discussion that, about the rates and people want more. And yes, there's always room for more, but we had to at least get the technology there first. Now we can discuss like if there's going to be, how we increase the revenue and fair share for artists.
And I liked when our conversation prior to this live, where you mentioned, streaming is really going up against spins, radio spins.
Yeah.
I never really looked at it like that.
Yeah. So people, and there's been like a lot of energy over the weekend, because there's a bill that's being presented to increase the streaming rate, which is a good thing. But what I'm explaining to a lot of my friends and colleagues is that it's important that we apply apples to apples, and so a lot of people look at streaming and they're used to sales and record sales and album sales and the revenue that comes along with that. And I say it's important when you look at streaming is not a replacement one-to-one for sales. Streaming, in my opinion, is the digital equivalent of what radio was. Radio, would play songs, and you had the PROs, ASCAP, CSAG, BMI. They would track, how many spins and how many plays you were getting on radio. But streaming is more of an equivalent to radio, the digital equivalent. The issue is we haven't figured out yet the sales equivalent to selling an album in the digital space. We had it with iTunes. You could download a song, but I think there's going to need to be more value added to that. and hopefully now with blockchain and with tokenization, hopefully we'll be able to create that. Because I think now with NFTs and things like that, and blockchain, there will be a way to create value added, whatever that is, So just like when you, back in the days, you bought an album, you own the album, but you also own the artwork, you have the liner notes, you might have a poster in there. So we have to figure out ways to increase value for people wanting to buy music. And a lot of artists now, and I think we talked about this offline too, like 21 Savage put out a new album, but he also put out a vinyl album, and it became a collector's item. And a lot of people bought that album. Like that vinyl album made millions of dollars aside from the digital, download and streams or whatever. And that's a way to create value added. But there's going to be even more excitement, I think, in the digital space, especially with AI. And who knows? All this technology. Who knows? I don't know. Holograms. Who knows what we're gonna have?
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the Tupac hologram.
Yep.
There was something I wanted to share with you because we didn't get a chance to get you inside of our metaverse. So that's one of those mass adoption situations. I would, if anybody from labels or artists are looking at this, what happens is when you start to build your own space, the problem is we decentralized platforms that we use got too big, right? They turned us into like super products now. And they don't realize that if we just decided to just click off for like even 36 hours, they'll be crushed.
Right.
Even 24 hours, they'll be crushed.
Right.
So, we're teaching and we're showing people how to harness the power of the Web3 metaverse space, right? So we talked about Donnell Jones, and he doesn't really come to the East Coast a lot. I got him on my radar for whenever he comes, right?
Yeah.
So when you have artists who are really traveling where their core audience is, you don't really get to see them. So this is where I feel like Web3 could bridge that gap a little bit, where you can start just create a different immersed environment, right? So I'm going to share this with you guys here. Can you see it?
It's loaded. Yep, we good.
Yep.
All right. So this is our metaverse space. This is my avatar that I created through Ready Player Me, right? So simple. You can make it look like just like you. And in the future, this is now. So just imagine 2-3 years from now, these graphics are going to look real, right?
Right.
So we get a guy like Donnell. Donnell's performing in Wisconsin, right? It's always somewhere that I'm not, okay? So he's in Wisconsin. Donnell decides to do, or any artist decides to do a pop-up virtual in the metaverse. The thing I realized about the industry is no one wants to be the first, but no one wants to be the last, right? That was always the conversations. Or they want it coming from someone who's reputable, maybe, right? So when he's here, he or she can now perform meet and greets, right? And that's another vertical. The safety aspect to it, no problem. It's an avatar. So now you can actually interact with your audience before you actually put on a performance. Then what happens is we're sitting in this lounge area and there's the meet or greet ticket. Now you get to the real show, right? So this is where we start to stream the show from wherever it's playing in the world, and you head over to, let me just switch out of here.
Places right there. Yeah.
And you head over to the main stage. So we're still building this out. All right, this will take me there. And when you go to the main stage or wherever you decide to go, so this could be built out like the studio, right? So Eddie, you could be in here cooking up some tracks, and then you bring your audience in and they get an inside look to like just how you operate, right? Without giving them the real version of it, right? Just a virtual. So now this is the concert, right? So your artist is in here with a room full of people watching, and this doesn't require Oculus at this point. When you have the Oculus, it just brings you, it immerses you a lot deeper into the experience. So the NBA does this. You can buy, listen, the NBA version on the Oculus, watching the game, it's better than any courtside seat you can get. Wow. This is how close they have you to the action with these cameras that are all around. So this is the type of information and power that we have at Skyton Academy. And the toughest part has been getting the information out and focusing only on our community, who is really slow to adopt a lot of things.
Right.
So now we're opening it up to just, it's just tribe now at this point. It doesn't fall on race or gender or anything. It's just, listen, if you want to know about this technology, here it is. right? Good, bad, or indifferent. So how do you feel about this maneuver here and this integration in music? Do you see this as being a viable space for musicians or creatives?
I think it will. I think it will. The issues that you're gonna have is just people having the means to consume the technology. So whether it be on computer, whether it be with Oculus glasses or Apple Vision Pro, or it's always the companion hardware to go with the experience. And I think that's going to be the challenge. Or having it in a way where it's easily viewable either on a phone or something like that. I think that's what is going to be the challenge. But I think
and all of this, just so you know, is mobile friendly too.
Okay.
So we don't have to, it's like the 90s. We grew up, you look for the AOL CDs out there, you try to get the hours, the dial up. We're past that stage now. Everyone is building it mobile ready, desktop ready. And then now we have the immersive situation. And that's probably going to be the barrier of entry at 3,000 or 500,
Right.
But I feel that hardware probably gets a lot more affordable as things progress.
Right.
There'll be more competition and, like you said, the acceleration of business is going to create new things, new people.
Yes. And then I think also we gotta have to have like a value add to whatever, and I'm not sure if that's gonna be a value add to a recording or a value add to a performance. And one of those two. But it's coming. It's definitely coming because you're gonna have, all the virtual is coming. And I keep wondering also where we're going with this whole, hologram and hologram players, because I know that's coming too, and that's going to be something. People think it's like it sounds crazy now, but for Star Wars fans, they have like the where they're showing messages and it's projecting the hologram, and it's like a little 3D hologram that's talking. All that is coming, and to see a performance like that where you could actually project a person into a room, I think that's going to be something too. I think that's going to be something. I'm wondering, if you could project that space that you just showed, like into like a hologram. That I think that would be cool.
Oh, that's coming. So, someone in the comment had a good question about the movie world, right? So all fighting for fair compensation. It just seems like 2024 is like the year of exposure now, right? We realize who wasn't getting paid, the unfair practices of the entertainment business. What's your take on, and you said it before, so you can't stop technology, right? You just can't stop it at the end of the day. It's whatever the people are going to adopt, and that's usually where we're going to trend to. So can Eddie F be recreated as an AI you think that's possible?
It will be possible. I don't know if it's possible right now, but it will be possible. There's going to be, and I already discussed this with some of my friends, it's just like sampling. So before sampling, the technology, you couldn't do what sampling could do. And they had to put laws in place where to say, hey, if you use somebody's, composition, there had to be laws that said if you duplicate the composition, one, you got to ask for permission, and then if you get permission, they quote you what the intellectual property use case would be and how much you charge for it. Yeah. And I think some of that same thing is going to happen with AI. There's going to be a point when you're reproducing people's voices and likeness and images, there's going to have to be some kind of law similar to like with sampling, where they say, hey, if you derive a voice or a likeness or image or whatever from a person, you're gonna have to pay them, first you're gonna have to ask for permission, and if they grant permission, you're gonna have to pay them a licensing fee. I think that's coming. Will it come with AI? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. You'll be able to. I don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but there will be a time where you can, pretty much have something that's similar to a personality. Now, how deep that goes in terms of original thought and consciousness, I don't know. That's blurry. I don't know how far that's gonna go, but it's gonna be, as far as like the basics of having a similarity and likeness. Yeah, that's coming for sure.
We got a great question in the comments now. So, and if you want to answer it, but would you be open to doing a hologram style Heavy D and the Boys reunion show?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Super dope.
Absolutely.
Super dope. This guy's a tech guy. Our conversations are about tech.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm actually working on something. If there's somebody who has in the chat, or you guys know that has the resources, we need to talk about that, because I'm actually working on something right now.
Eddie, we got the resources, right? And we are the plug to the future.
So we need to talk about that.
Yeah, no, we're just this is the appetizer.
Okay.
We just really wanted to know who you were, what you did, and then just being part of the community. I want to definitely thank you for trusting in us, right?
Yes.
To navigate, you through this space and fruitful relationship. We can, definitely offer different verticals and anything you need. We're definitely here for you for that. Champ, being a music guy, Champ, what do you? I've been hogging up the mic a little bit today.
Yeah, no, it's cool because I'm sitting here like, not only a teacher, but I these calls like this, I sit back like a student. Like I'm real observant, and I kind of seen a lot of these transitions. So I'm an 80s baby, right? Mid 80s. So a lot of the pioneer stuff that you were a part of, I caught the tail end of that up until now. But it was super influential for me as an artist, as a spitter. Listen, you had to talk that talk. You had to spit. It was no popcorn, no ringtones. We didn't have none of that. It was raw ciphers and all that. So
Right.
And now to present day, to seeing the evolution of the industry, it's in my position, right?
Right.
It's horrible. But you do have those artists, right? That kind of usher in a new sound. They kind of bring a taste of the old, but still throw their spin on it to bring it, more modernized. My biggest thing is these artists, they don't have true knowledge, one, of the financial side of things. A lot of these people, they just want fame. So they're in money. So they're signing these contracts, they're getting into these deals, and they don't have any know-it-all. So, they learn later after they've been quote unquote jerked by whomever, what I mean? And that's horrible. So now sitting in this seat and being an artist myself, I can see the power of cryptocurrency, the power of blockchain, being able to tokenize and create an NFT for my catalog, my records, be able to get them out to a community, not just a university, but I can leverage Web3. The power of just having something exist and getting it direct to consumer without somebody in between, putting their hands in a pot.
Right.
What I do want to know is, as a producer, have you thought about doing something with, whether it be a new artist or existing artists, in this new digital space where it's not human likeness, everything is all digital? So we talking, AI figures or, whatever.
Yep. I was just talking to Steve about that. I'm definitely looking at doing something like that. I have a buddy of mine that I've been talking to about doing a project like that.
And that's dope. That's innovative. That's the cutting edge. That's it.
I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. We
Don't say too much.
We could definitely fly over that, but just a tidbit because I've seen some of these comments in here. So there's a company called LivePlex, right? So they're an API technology company.
Yeah.
Okay. So what they do is, and they mess with every sector you could imagine. They have a product for, right? So for the music industry, royalty distribution is a big thing, right? So you got to think, you don't really know where things are being played or how many times outside of just somebody reporting it to you. Right. So with this company in blockchain technology, it allows real-time tracking of music usage, in real time. So it's going to take some time to get all the systems on the same accord.
Right.
But once they start connecting to just our everyday life, then you'll start to see the administrative part of businesses just crumble. Right. Because at that time we're getting you could literally be paid royalties per day, per second.
Right.
Fractional. You can distribute your royalties in different places. Cash out on them.
That's it.
Believe it or not, I gotta give Sony a shout out. Sony is actually ahead of most of the labels in terms of they're not there where you're talking about yet, but they're getting there. They're close. They have daily, royalty accrual, and you can see in real time. They have it's not, and this is just, they maybe had this for maybe 2 years, maybe 3. It's been improving. And I looked at them as one of the leaders. I said, soon they're gonna be hey, we issue you a Sony debit card. You have your stuff accruing daily in your account. They're moving in that direction. So I just wanted to acknowledge, because some labels are really forward looking when it comes to that. So they have real time. It's not down to the the minute or the hour, but it's definitely they have daily accrual. You can see what's happening. And then you can break it down. You can see by region, and then it starts getting real granular. So and I can see where they're going with it. It's pretty dope.
Oh, that's what's up. So is there rumblings of a possible digital label?
I don't know. And the thing is, when you look at, again, when you look at Sony Music Entertainment, Sony is also a technology company. I'm not sure what part owns what in terms of the ownership, how it's broken up, but in name, it is a technology company in name. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's moving in the right direction.
All right. I love it. Listen, we have a camera off segment. You can stay if you want, but I do have a camera off question for you.
Okay.
So, Champ, take us out. We have to cut the recording on this one because I don't even want to be live.
I got you.
And let's just turn the camera off.
I got you. All right. So listen, it has been an absolute pleasure. We're here with Eddie F., one of the industry leaders, innovators. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Listen, I want everybody to unmute, man. This is a little different for us too, right? This is kind of our first definitely our first music headline interview, but it's definitely been an interview that wasn't carried by Champ and I. So I just want to really thank you for just all the knowledge and the insight, and then just the respect I have for the art form, and knowing that you were able to create something so long ago and it's still living today, just gives so much hope to just humanity, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely want to thank you for that, because not only did you take me back to the essence, but it just I just want you to know that you are, I don't even have the words for it, but you know what it is. That stuff that you guys created then is still viable today. And I'm telling you, I'm not just blowing smoke. It's on my playlist. That's all I can deal with right now when I'm working towards this stuff. So the past is kind of keeping me grounded as I'm working in the future.
Right.
I definitely want to thank you for your contribution to just hip hop and R&B. Personally.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate
and guys, come off of mute and just give it up for Eddie.
Yes,
for coming on.
Thank you.
I just
Thank
want
you.
Thank you. Very informational. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you for the craft
Eddie,
and dedication.
Eddie,
Thank you.
Eddie,
So hold on. This is a camera off moment. So then you could just jump right in with that question. Champ, just take us out so we can clip this.
All right. So listen, guys, that was .Connect episode 48 with Eddie F. The future of music, navigating industry changes. All right. Appreciate y'all for being here. Peace and love. Catch y'all on the next one.